Ferrari seemingly have huge issues with their car in the 2025 season, and while some may believe that Charles Leclerc's podium is a step in the right direction, many others will disagree. Now, in my opinion, there's lots of work that needs to go on at Ferrari, and in my opinion, it's not worth it for the 2025 season. Now, there is rumoured to be a reevaluated rear suspension coming to the car in Canada or Silverstone. It hasn't quite been confirmed which one yet, so it's going to be interesting to see how the car does change. Now, obviously, we know across the course of this season so far, both Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton have not been happy with the performance of the Ferrari, and it just hasn't been good enough across board. Now, many people are probably going to jump in my comments and go, Hamilton is washed, Hamilton needs to retire, and that's fair enough if that is your opinion, but across the course of many of the races this season, Lewis Hamilton's had problems with the car in regards to damage, obviously some other issues as well, which have been ongoing behind the scenes with the likes of his engineer, Ricardo Adami. And in my opinion, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. And I just don't think in Ferrari it is worth putting all their effort into rectifying this 2025 car. Just go and build a really good 26 one. Like, genuinely, just make sure 26 is a championship competitor so that we can see Charles and Lewis battling at the front, whether that be with the McLarens, the Red Bulls, the Mercedes, the Alpines, whoever it's going to be for 2026. That's what I believe Fred Vasseur should do. That's what I believe Loic Serra and all the men at Ferrari, men and women at the factory should be doing. It's putting full focus into 2026, because this car isn't going to win the championship. Now, a lot of people may jump in the comments right now and go, well, they're second in the championship right now. But ultimately, that's just because Lewis Hamilton and Leclerc are consistent point scorers. They will score points every weekend. I think the only weekend they haven't scored points was in regards to the double DSQ in China. Whereas you look at Mercedes with Kimi Antonelli and even George Russell, both of them haven't scored points in a weekend when they've finished. And Kimi Antonelli's had a couple of failures recently. Russell's had a failure. You look at Red Bull, you've only really got Max Verstappen competing at the front. Tsunoda, it's hit and miss where he's going to end up. And that is why Ferrari are sitting second in the Constructors. It's not because their car is second fastest. I think if you actually go across the data across the course of this season, I think you'd work out that realistically, Ferrari are fourth, so maybe even fifth. I know fifth is a bit of a push, but sometimes that V-carb has been incredibly pacey, and I think even the Alpine on occasion with one of their drivers has been really, really quick. And obviously this weekend we saw Lewis Hamilton get overtaken by the Sauber of Nico Hülkenberg on the final laps and be closed in on by Isaac Hadjar and lose about 3 or 4 seconds to those ahead in the course of the last 5 laps. And I think it just shows that there was quite clearly a problem with Hamilton's Ferrari, whether it be engine, whether it be floor-related, wing-related, whatever. There was quite clearly a problem. And the big thing going forward is that Ferrari solve the problems and just maximise what they have. Like, they will get podiums this season. Hamilton will get a podium at some point this season. I can't see him going an entire year without a podium. I do think he's currently sat on 299, which for me is absolutely baffling that a driver has got 299 total podiums. Like, it's unbelievable. And I don't want him to end on 299. I don't think anybody wants him to end on 299. Obviously, he's picked up the sprint win. He's picked up 2 sprint podiums. But is he going to be able to pick up any other good results this season? And that is the problem we're facing right now with Ferrari. It's that you don't really know where they stand. If you go across FP1 and FP2 data from Spain, Lewis Hamilton was the quicker driver. Then all of a sudden you hit race day and all of a sudden he loses all pace. Like, whatever happened in between Leclerc overtaking him and going into the box for the first pit stop didn't make sense. He just literally lost so much pace. And then obviously across the course of that second stint, lost 10 seconds to George Russell in 4 laps before boxing, which was absolutely ridiculous. And Ferrari have got to solve their issues. And to me, a lot of the issue on Hamilton's side of the garage is, I believe there's a communication barrier between Ricardo Adami and Lewis Hamilton. I don't believe Adami understands what Hamilton wants. I don't believe he truly understands what Hamilton is saying. And sometimes I think that's a big problem. Like in the race at Monaco, Hamilton had no idea whereabouts he was in the race or what he needed to do to catch up. And I'm not saying that Hamilton's being sabotaged. I'm not going to say that in the slightest. But I do believe that there has to be a conversation in regards to, especially around Monaco, not giving Hamilton the right information in order to make sure there was a gap for Leclerc should there have been a safety car or something so that he could have put on fresh rubber. That's my personal opinion. Now, we don't know whether that would have been true. We obviously don't know. But we know that it was a major problem. And when you're not giving the right information to one of your drivers, they're obviously going to fall back because they don't know target times. And the target times that Adami gave to Hamilton were 3 or 4 seconds. Well, let's say 3 seconds were off what you could do at Monaco, especially in clean air like Hamilton was for a large majority of that final stint. And that's what I don't understand. When you go back to Bono and Hamilton at Mercedes last year in Monaco, yes, the race was a bit of a nothing race. But if you remember towards the end, Hamilton boxed and just went full push, go all like hammer time, just close up again. Obviously then Verstappen boxed and it made no difference to finishing position or anything like that. But it was one of those where Hamilton knew what he needed to do, knew he needed to push as hard as he could to catch back up, to try and get the undercut. And he doesn't really get that information at Ferrari. Now, during the first stint, they boxed him to not get undercut. During the second stint, they let him get undercut. And it just doesn't make sense. And this is the problem with Ferrari. Like, if you look at the first stint for Hamilton, right? However many laps he did on that soft tyre, right? He comes in, and the reason for boxing early, which Hamilton wasn't particularly pleased with, was due to the fact that George Russell, I think it was George Russell that was behind him, could have undercut him. But then when George Russell boxes for the second stint, they then leave him out for 4 or 5 laps to create a tyre offset, which ultimately then puts him behind Kimi Antonelli and 10 seconds away from George Russell, obviously with a car in the way as well. So, like, you've just got so many problems. Now, Charles and his engineer seem to have a decent thing going. Yeah, there's problems on that side as well, but a lot less than what seems to be happening on Hamilton's side. Now, I'm not saying that Lewis Hamilton should get angry. I'm not saying that Lewis Hamilton should sort of lose his cool across the course of the radio or in the media, but at some point he's got to turn around and call out the issues that he's facing, because I can see it, many other fans can see it. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that Hamilton hasn't lost a tenth or two. Now he's 40. Of course he's lost time as he's getting older. But is he 8, 9 tenths a lap slower than Charles Leclerc in race pace? Absolutely fucking not. Like, he just isn't, is he? And that is the frustrating thing for me, is that I don't think Hamilton is in the position to maximise the package. 1, because he doesn't really understand the package he's got. 2, the car changes depending on the session. And 3, his engineer doesn't give him the right information. And that is one of the major issues following Ferrari. And it's just disappointing to see, because they finished 14 points off the constructors last year. They were the highest scoring team across the second half of last season. Now, could they do that this season? I personally don't believe so. I think McLaren, it's theirs to lose, in my opinion, and they're not going to have a drop-off like Red Bull, which is what many were expecting in Spain. I sort of hoped, like obviously everyone has hope to make the battle at the front a lot tighter than it is, because in my opinion, it's not really a battle at the moment. If a McLaren is on pole, a McLaren will win the race. And if a McLaren starts in P2, 9 times out of 10, that McLaren will finish in P2 as well. So there's a lot of issues going on at Ferrari and a lot needs to change. But you can let me know your thoughts down in the comments if you have not done so already. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, turn on that notification bell, and I'll catch you in the next one.